Hi, my name is Timothy. I'm a Montessori teacher here at Sacred Heart School, and I'm also a certified reading specialist. Often parents want to know, how can I support my child learning how to read? Or how do you teach your child how to read? How do I know when my child's ready, or what are the steps? So I'd like to go over a basic overview, the sequence of skills that a child needs to jump into reading. And then at the end, we'll talk about some of the ways that you can support your child in that process. So first we want to think about what are the sounds that a child is hearing in our language. So we're going to start with something simple like rhyming. So can a child hear that big pig rhyme? Cat, bat, that rhymes. And as they get more confident with hearing sounds, then we're going to work on beginning sounds. So what sound does table start with? Table. So as they get better and better with hearing beginning sounds, we're going to start connecting the sounds that they're hearing to the symbol, the letters. We don't emphasize the name of the letter at first. We really focus on the sound. The reason we do that is because when a child is reading and writing, they need the sound to be what pops into their head first. And so actually knowing the name could be confusing. We want the name to be secondary and the sound first. So when a child sees the letter P, I don't want them to think P, I want them to think P. Or when a child sees the letter C, we want them to think K, because that's what it's going to say. That's its sound, especially early on in reading. Or R says R. As children are learning their letter sounds, and that process takes a while, so in the midst of that process, we start to help them hear more sounds than just the beginning sounds. We want to break apart words and hear more of the beginning, maybe middle, and the ending sounds. So we might do something like saying a word in slow motion. Listen, I'm going to say a word. See if you can hear some sounds in it. Sun. Sun. And if at first they say, I hear n. Yes, you hear n. Sun. And we sometimes use our arms because, especially as they get a little bit more advanced and they're building words with the movable alphabet, we're going to tap out the sounds that they hear. It adds a motor element so that they can have some muscle memory and a visual element so they can see which sound they might be missing. So, sun. You heard n. And what's the beginning sound? S. Let's see if we can hear the middle sound. Sun. All right, so now we're ready. Now that they know some letters and the sounds they make, and they know and can hear those sounds in words, we can move over to the movable alphabet. So here's an example of one of the uses of the movable alphabet. There's lots of things children can do with this. They can write creatively, but one of the things they can do is to begin writing three-letter words. So for example, if I see a picture of a bat, we're going to first hear the sounds b, at, b, at, b, and they're going to get the sound b, the letter. Put it here. Ah, get ah, b, at, and they get t. And this lets children write maybe before they're ready with their motor skills to write with a pencil. Cat, k, at, and they get the sounds. So they can begin to build words. This is called encoding. And then soon after this is when they're ready to start decoding or reading. So then we put the movable alphabet away, and then we get out the cards, the word cards that go with it. K, at, and they have to be able to blend those sounds together. K, at, cat. And they're reading. They can match them up. B, at, bat. Another way we support this early reading of three-letter words is with word cards like these action cards. So these are all actions that they can do so that after they read them, they can either get a friend to act them out or they can act them out. Mop, mop, and they can pretend to mop. Ugh, tug, pretend to tug. Hum, sit, hug. So there's so many different things now that they can do now that they're reading and they're understanding what they're reading, that the words have meaning. So once a child feels really confident and comfortable reading 3-letter words, that's when we move on to introducing some sight words. If we introduce sight words too early, then children think that reading is about memorizing a word, and then they don't learn that they can figure out a word by decoding. So once they've learned how to do that, now we're going to move on to sight words where there's part of the word doesn't follow the regular pattern. Part of these words are not going to sound exactly like the alphabet that they've learned. So for example, this doesn't say I, this word is I. This doesn't say ah. When it's a word, it's the word a. The is a little bit different because they might not have learned that th says th or th. See. Now, then we will move on and we'll start to teach them some of the phonograms or the digraphs when 2 letters come together and make a different sound. But again, that's a skill that we'll be practicing after they're confident with some of the really early reading. So these are some of our sight words. And then after they know how to decode and they know a few sight words, they're ready to read some of our readers, some of our decodable books that they can read by sounding out the words. So here's an example of one of our books in our Washika curriculum where they can read the book and then they can read those same pages but match them up with pictures. So, how can you support your child at home as they're learning to read? Well, most of these skills are ones that you can support at home. So, in the early stages, they can begin rhyming with you. You can practice say 2 rhyming words and then have them give a thumbs up. You can practice beginning sounds. So if they're at breakfast eating eggs and toast, you can say, what sound does eggs start with? Eh. What sound does toast start with? T. And so anything in everyday life can be a little opportunity to learn those pre-reading skills. Then you can start hearing more sounds and words, or saying a word and then they can say it in slow motion and see what sounds they hear. And if they only hear the beginning and ending sound, that's fine. That's where they're at developmentally. And then they can begin to hear beginning, middle, and ending sounds. Then you can also be practicing as you're reading with them, or if they see letters, practice having them say the sound that letter makes. So when they see an S, what sound does it make? S. When they see the letter N, what sound? N. So practicing getting confident with the letter sounds is really helpful for children along this process. And then you can begin to have them looking at simple 3-letter words and seeing if they can say all the sounds and then blend them together so that they're reading.